Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I'm a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too because you're watching content like this. The name of this channel, the name of our channel is Holistic Manifesting because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we're choosing, right? What I am discussing today is your baggage, right? If you listen to people like Bruce Lipton, that's one of my favorites to listen to, and Joe Dispenza is another one too. And if you're a little bit more existential, sort of, maybe Muji, if you subscribe to people on YouTube. But I'm bringing up those people just to say that one of the biggest themes that I see always being discussed is the idea of forgetting who you are to be able to move on to the future that you want. So in essence, forgetting who you have been in your past in order to move on to the future version of you that you would like, right? So that's what I mean when I say drop everything, forget everything. Now, we all know it's not as simple as that, just to say, oh, today I'm a clean slate. Let me just walk out into the world, right? Because there are things from our past that are extremely helpful to us, right? It's helpful for us to remember, helpful for us to know, especially when it comes to dangerous situations or situations that we've outgrown and we don't want to walk in those again. So having that past information is great. I think where we make the biggest mistake is allowing the past to be a major part of our identity. Because when you create an identity for yourself, you feel locked into the box of that identity, right? So like if you're a woman, there's a certain identity that you've created around that and said, this is what makes me a woman. If you're a man, there's an identity you've created around that and said, this is what makes me a man, right? And sometimes we don't have it defined. It's really murky and we kind of walk around with an idea, but we don't really know what specific things related to our identity that we're latched onto, right? I made a video a few weeks ago that talked about being careful about the things that you let define you, because when those things are not there anymore, or if those things somehow shift or move or change, your definition of yourself is going to have to then change. But it's better to get that correct on the front end and just saying, you know what, I'm going to walk into this space, I'm going to walk into this life, I'm going to walk into this experience with the mindset of it's a bonus, it's not something that makes or breaks me, right? I think we can remember that a lot in careers. We can definitely remember it in relationships. We already know that, right? Forgetting who you have been is one of those things that you have to learn how to do while at the same time using your wisdom that you've collected over time to move forward in life, right? If you're only remembering your past in a way of it is shaping who you are in this present moment, then you're not truly going to make it to the future version of yourself, because as the old saying goes, you can't get there from there, right? It has to be new. It has to be different. It has to be interesting. It has to lead you to the place where you want your life to go, right? If you have any parts of you that you're still, ruminating on, that you're still wrapping your identity around, then it's gonna damage the way that you walk into the next version of your life and of yourself, right? And even hinder you from doing that. I think Erykah Badu had a good song, Bag Lady. That's one I always think of, right? It's how quickly we can walk around collecting these things in our lives, which is nothing wrong with collecting the wisdom and collecting the discernment to understand how to move in this life. But there's an issue when it comes into all of these negative things are also a part of my baggage and a part of who I am, but I'm trying to release those things at the same time I'm trying to move forward. I think we don't understand the idea of releasing to move forward. Most of us are trying to do this. So I have my glasses here in this cup, right? We have our glasses in our hand, and instead of putting the glasses down and saying, okay, let me get this cup now, what we do is this. Oh, look, my cup is matching my clothes today. What we do is this. We somehow find a way to juggle. And then without putting that down, we go, let me grab this right here too. And then we go, okay, well, this right here is still there too. And then when it comes to the new and exciting life, where's your room to put it in this hand? There's nowhere to grab it because you're completely full of all those identities and mindsets and ideas that come from your past. I always say our past and our mindsets and the way that we see the world was excellent for getting us to where we are now. We have to recognize those places in our lives where we have those defining moments, where we have to decide where do I want my life to lead to next? And if I keep doing the same thing, I'm going to creating the same thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Only thing is wrong with that is when you don't want to create the same thing over and over again, right? So finding those gaps for yourself. When I also think about forgetting who you are, I think about just the burden of what you have been through and the burden of guilt, shame, or blame, any of those burdens. You have to get to a point when you're ready to lay those down, because those burdens, any shame you feel about your past or any guilt you feel about your past, it's truly going to shape your future because you're still holding on to it. It's going to keep on creating similar circumstances, similar interactions and environments. We can always measure the amount of letting go and freedom that we're giving ourselves from the inside out by what our outside circumstances are evolving into. Not what they are, because sometimes we're just not there yet and the outside circumstances are not going to show up as clearly. But measuring the incremental changes that are happening in our lives, that's how we can see, am I really releasing these old things, right? I remember something back in the day when I was like learning how to date. When I was like, 30 years old, whatever, 32 or something like that. I remember thinking like, I don't know anything about dating. All I knew was you're with a person, you work through their drama and trauma, which is not, and then you marry them, you have kids. It's like, I didn't put a lot of thought into the process of that, right? And so when I was going through these sites and it was like how to date and how to conduct yourself and how to be this and that, I've long since not, but it was fun at the time to understand these things. But one of the biggest things was, forgetting the training that you've had in that area and knowing that, okay, the training that I had in that area got me to here. I don't really like where I'm at as far as dating goes and like what I'm attracting and all. So I need to do different things. I need to present myself differently. I need to respond differently. I need to, conduct my, interactions very differently, right? That's something that you learn very quickly. How I measured that over time was seeing the type of people that were being attracted to me in my space. Every time I was attracting a new person, whether it was a long term, a short term, or whatever, they incrementally became better choices. You know what I mean? So I knew that I was flushing out all of the things inside of me that I wanted to work on because I could see the outcome of that in an incremental basis. And the same thing was with financial hangups. I never truly had those I'm broke and I'll never have money financial hangups, which I don't know why. I just never really thought like that. But I will say this, I had poor money management habits because I learned poor money management habits, right? I learned how to be broke even though I wasn't a broke person. And once I understood, like, wait, I'm in control of this, I can make better decisions. I knew when I was cleaning up my financial mindset, because on the inside, because as below, so above, I knew because I would see my finances and my income and the way that I handled money change over time, right? The way that I thought about money changed over time. My generosity would have changed over time, even more so. It wasn't about just showing up for people just because I had it and I want them to dislike me. It turned into I'm generous when I choose to be generous, and I'm generous often. You know what I mean? And I can choose when I want to be generous, and I cannot worry about if people don't like me because I don't have it or don't want to be generous or not in the right space in that moment. Because usually those are people that they see you as transactional anyway, so it's kind of useless to even dive deeper. But nonetheless, just seeing those outside things, don't look for the big, wow, I did it and everything is great. Look for the small things to know that you are genuinely and authentically leaving behind things that do not serve your current person and don't serve where you're trying to go, right? That could be friends, it might be family, it might be a job, it might be a business that you're running. I've seen many people who run a business a certain way and they have a business and then they realize the business is completely taking over their whole entire lives. And so they said, if I don't change this now, if I don't leave behind my mindset of being hyper independent and always needing to do things, then I'm always going to be in this position. This is a really good one for me because, right, I've done all kinds of house stuff. I don't care to do it, right? I've seen what it do to people over time, like working hard on houses and all that. And I don't want those kind of issues. I don't want to do that. So I got a new ceiling fan. And my first thought was that you put up a ceiling fan before, go ahead and do that. So I took everything out the box and I looked at it all on the countertop and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. And so if you think along the lines of the way you've always been, I don't need to be hyper independent here. You know what? I called an electrician. They said they'll install it for $80. I'd rather pay somebody $80 any day than to get up on that ladder and install that ceiling fan myself. Yes, I could probably pull it off. Yes, it'll probably come out right. But I don't want to do it. And I don't want a lifestyle to where I'm putting up ceiling fans or doing any of that kind of work, right? So that's kind of the way you have to see it. It's just like, how much further do I want to take this behavior in my life? And if I don't want to take this any further, what do I need to change today so that tomorrow does not look the same? Right? And that's all I have. Forget who you were. Forget all those things. And when I say forget, leave behind the deep attachments to identities, religions, sexualities and all. I always thought it was strange people use sexuality as their entire identity, or people use race as their entire identity, or people use their country as their entire identity. It's like, dude, you are multifaceted, an infinite spiritual being. You're way more than those things that you've latched on to. Consider that you just haven't seen what it is that you need to see in order to move on to the next level. Because sometimes we think we've collected all the information. Sometimes we haven't collected all the information. And just keep yourself open and receptive to say, hey, what if there's a way that I can change this outcome, right? What if, I have a bad habit of doing that in conversation with others, always going to solution based. And sometimes people just want to rant. And that's fine, but you got to give me a precursor. It's like, I just want to vent. Then I'm going to turn my brain off and I'm going to come into the mode of, oh, that's awful. That's a shame. I can't believe you went through that. You know how that goes. But if you don't preface that with me, I'm going to start saying, well, how about this if we try? But I notice sometimes, even myself, this is no different. We like to be stuck in our little problems sometimes, even when there's a way out. So the way out of being and doing and continuing the life that you have now is assessing, what am I dragging from my past that keeps recreating this outcome? I used to run into women all the time that was always like, worried about men cheating on them. I never thought about that. I'm not saying I've never been cheated on, but I mean, it's not something that I could give attention to. I always figure everything's going to come out in the wash. If you're doing lascivious things going to come to light. It's just always what it is. But I never harped on it. And for the most part, I never dealt with that kind of behavior on a regular basis. So what I was always telling them was, stop worrying about whether you saw your mom get cheated on or you saw your sisters get cheated on, all that kind of stuff. Walk in with a clean slate and just take people at their face value to some degree, and then watch out for signs. And once you do, don't start battling and interacting with the nonsense. If you interact with the nonsense, you are a part of the nonsense, right? It's the difference between being in a car accident and seeing a car accident, right? You can be an observer or you can be the person that's in the car accident, right? I prefer to be the observer in a lot of things. So I'm not going to always create a situation to where I'm smack dab in the middle of the confusion and the chaos. I'm going to think of like, how can I view this to give myself the least amount of drama and to give myself the most leverage and to give myself the most ability to move forward should this thing not turn out to be the way that I want it to be, right? And that way I'm not falling apart and I'm not trying to change people or create a situation to where I'm in complete control and the other person is just in my beck and call or anything like that. We genuinely have to leave behind those mindsets that got us into places where we don't want to be anymore. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day.